Good morning, everybody. 15 minutes a day. Clear Mind Media. Today's topic is on intelligence. Intelligence has nothing to do with how quote unquote smart you are, has nothing to do with how educated you are, or has nothing to do with how many people come to you for answers on your job. Intellect is three parts, from my understanding or from the way that I view things. Intellect is three parts. It comes from common knowledge, acquired knowledge, and specialized knowledge. Now, some people tend to think that if they are overcompensating in one of those knowledge areas, it does away with one of the other knowledge areas that needs development. And one of the basic beginning points is common sense. We see a lot of things that don't make sense in today's society. And what we have gotten away from is the basic understanding of intelligence. We have completely absolved ourselves from making the best decision based on common sense for our lives. For instance, career criminals. If you 20, 30, 40 years old, 50 years old, in and out of jail, in and out of jail, in and out of jail, common sense will have you know that that may not be the course of action for you. That doesn't make good common sense. If you are already struggling, to take care of yourself, struggling to, maintain your living arrangements, or, struggling in general, and you know what struggling is, why bring a child into this world on top of that? What makes you think that things are going to be easier with an expensive child? What part of that makes you think that life is going to be easier? So we bring these children into this world severely lopsided. And in today's society, no stretch of imagination, you need as much leg up in the game as possible, because the world isn't easy. Life is not easy. But if we bring our children into this world with as much help and foundation as possible, then they have a leg up. We can't bring children into this world the same way our past generations have brought children into this world. Things have changed. So common sense will have you that when you're learning the basic rules of the world, think about things. And this doesn't have anything to do with the school you go to. It doesn't have anything to do with the church you go to. It doesn't have to do with anything of that. It has everything to do with how you view common sense. If you're tired, you go to sleep. If you're hungry, you eat. Common sense. If you're walking across the street, you look across the street, right? Common sense. Why have we just figured that we'd remove that away from our mental capacity? And we're just going to skip over that. And when you're talking to people nowadays, sometimes you're floating so far above the fringe that you can't even communicate anymore, because the conversation makes no common sense. So that's the first piece, common sense. If you touch a stove when it's hot, that's not common sense. That's acquired knowledge. What happens is common sense will tell you, when we're little people, common sense, we're taught common sense. So if you're told not to touch the stove, you're going to touch it anyway. Okay, granted that. Now, acquired knowledge comes in when now your brain starts to process that. Hey, you know what? Somebody told me not to touch this. I touched it anyway. And now I know for myself that it is now hot. Acquired knowledge is the explosion of the brain now starting to process information. See, the brain doesn't know right or wrong. It doesn't know left or right. It doesn't know black or white. It doesn't know hot or cold. It doesn't know any of those things. It only knows what we teach it. And so after common sense, the acquired knowledge that we are bringing to the brain is now the brain starting to process that information. Acquired knowledge is how we process thought. Not to use any psychobabble jargon or anything like that, but neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. Basically, NLP is basically how we communicate with ourselves. I am a fan, and I think that people really should talk to themselves. Now, I'm not a fan of answering yourself. Now, I'm not 100% on that one, but sometimes we need to talk ourselves through things. Does this make sense? Because sometimes when you talk yourself through things, aside from just acting on those processes that the brain is generating, you may find some flaws in your common sense. So when you're talking to yourself and your brain is processing information, the more you experience, the more your brain starts to process. When I had this conversation about communication, our filters, that is 2 powers of acquired knowledge meeting. And there's a difference between the two, because in my brain, I know exactly what I'm thinking. But between my brain and my lips, there's a disconnect. Between the time that I generate thought and the time that I say what I'm thinking, there's a disconnect. Now, by the time what comes out of my mouth reaches your ears, there's another disconnect. And by the time what I just said reaches your ears and is processed by your brain, there's a whole lot of gaps in between. So what we have to do is we have to talk ourselves through things in order to be able to communicate effectively well with others. Now, by being able to do that, you have to have experienced some things. So by being able to come from a place of common sense and then being able to tack on exposure and experience in the form of acquired knowledge, now you have 2/3 of the pie already all ready to be digested. Now, here's where specialized knowledge comes in. Now, specialized knowledge is the training that you get out of books. See, that's only 1/3. But you have 2 other knowledges that are there to support that knowledge. No, does everyone need to go and get a 4-year degree? No. But I do believe that everyone needs to go through the transition of common knowledge and acquired knowledge, which is to me the basics of a high school education. Because what a high school education does is it prepares you to be able to shoulder the burden of 1, the world, and 2, specialized knowledge. See, the reason why I think that that a basic high school education doesn't meet that specialized knowledge yet is because right now, in order to even be kind of taken serious in society, you need that. You need that. So to me, that's almost common sense. You need to have a basic understanding of reading, writing, history. These are just the basics, and to me that would be common sense. So as you acquire this knowledge, now it's becoming specialized. Now what happens is you take that knowledge that you have digested and now you can turn it into its physical counterpart, which is sometimes money. But the beauty about having these 3 knowledges is now you are helping yourself. When you don't have common sense and you don't have acquired knowledge, when you haven't seen anything and done anything, it's very difficult for you to express yourself. which is one of the reasons why we're seeing a lot of older people as well as younger people just doing things that just completely defy logic. Why? Because there's this missing knowledge. And trust me, by no stretch of the imagination do I think I got it all figured out. But if you think that I'm onto something, then yeah, I encourage you to contact me. If not, talk to your social group. You don't have to call me and tell me anything. Talk to the people that are closest to you. See how they feel about it. Because these are going to be the people that you communicate with. So, as we move forward into that specialized knowledge, now we're getting into the colleges. We're getting into technical training. We're getting into and even religious training. See, the spirit has already moved on you in common sense. And this is what I was saying, that you don't have to know a scripture or a hymn or anything, because the spirit is already moving on you. But, without just you waking up in the morning. Now, if you want to understand that further, then that's where specialized knowledge comes in. The specialized knowledge in this world, we've spent too much time putting those with specialized knowledge in charge of stuff. But we have no idea with what kind of acquired knowledge they even have. What have they been through? So that's why I tell you to be very, very cognizant of who you listen to or who you talk to, because it's very important for you to understand not just the specialized knowledge of the individual that you're talking to and understanding your individual specialized knowledge. You have to understand how they acquired that knowledge. You also need to understand, do they have basic common sense? So these are the things that promote healthy intellect, not just getting a college education, not just being educated in general. So when people say knowledge is power, I totally disagree with that. I believe knowledge is potential power. It becomes power once you've learned how to utilize it. And the beginning of that power is harnessing it first. How do I capture this knowledge? How do I digest this knowledge for me as an individual? Then once I process this knowledge, how do I regurgitate this knowledge to my social community, my family, my friends, co-workers? See, I think we have gotten, one, the order all wrong, and I think we've got the weight wrong. I believe that common sense and acquired knowledge are a lot more important to our social society than specialized knowledge. I just truly believe that. And the reason why I say that is because when you listen to statisticians and subject matter experts talking about the unemployment rate or talking about where they expect a barrel of oil to be, they've gotten it grotesquely wrong numerous times, over again. All that knowledge going to waste. And we haven't even attacked the basic common sense. So, as you go through your life and as we continue to explore 15 minutes a day and explore these social constructs, pay attention to the common sense in the world today. Parents, common sense. Listen to your kids. Don't just sit there and talk about, because I'm older, you should listen to me. You're gonna lose them. Young people, common sense. Listen to your parents. Listen to what they're telling you and why they're telling you. So that's going to be a two-way street. And I know it's very difficult for parents to be able to allow their children to ask them questions. But I believe that if the children's questions get a lot more common and a lot more acquired, then I think that the questions don't seem like to be combative or rebellious. They're children. They have to learn that combative spirit. And you know where they learn it from? By being disheveled and making to feel that they aren't important. Common knowledge, acquired knowledge, specialized knowledge. Now you're talking about being smart. 15 minutes a day.